What's up, everybody, and welcome to Assemble XP. I'm one of your hosts, Matt, and joining me as always is my fellow Canuck. He's got too many controllers, but he loves it anyways. Court, what's going on, buddy?
Not much. Enjoying this beautiful Tuesday all by myself. All by myself.
You are in a mood. You are in a good mood.
Yo, this
silly.
I love my wife. I love my daughter.
Is that how you started off? I love them. I love my family.
Well, it's been very, very long since I've had a full house to myself for a very, very long time. You know, we are in a global pandemic, as much as some people don't want to admit it. But it's true. So my wife has gone into the office for the first time in almost 2 years, and my daughter is at school at the same time. So yes, I'm home by myself.
You know what?
I can do whatever I want.
I'm having a similar experience. Both kids are in school. It's kind of weird, but I am super productive this past week. It's been weird. It's been great.
It's 7 a.m. productive.
Yeah, when I'm getting up and getting them off to school, and then I've got enough time to sit and have a coffee and do the day job. Woo, I can bang work out like it's nobody's business. It's amazing when you're not interrupted.
100%. Like, I've worked from home for the past 10 years. So for me, it's a no-brainer. Like this morning, I was at my computer answering emails, throwing them off, knowing that we got the show to do. I was like, okay, I've timed my day out. I'm like, it's perfect. But if I just started working from home, it would probably be utter chaos. So
same. I'm in a similar boat. Been doing it long enough where I can juggle it, but it's not for everybody. I'll tell you what is for everybody, though, buddy. Superheroes. Marvel.
Honestly, it is.
DC. Yeah. It's for everyone. I mean, come on. Who are we kidding right now? Court and I want to talk to you all about a few things today, but if you guys can, do us a favor and hit that like button and consider subscribing to the show. We have Assemble XP here for our all Xbox podcast. I even rebranded it. Shout out to Johnny, who's our little man in the chair, who does all of our graphic work. But we got really cool Xbox branded everything. And if you guys can, support the show any way you can. But Court and I have a couple of things we want to talk today about. And the first is actually going to be topic of superheroes, because what we had on the PlayStation side the other day was, with their whole showcase, we actually got the reveal of 2 games. Court, we got Spider-Man 2, which looks phenomenal. Like, come on, you should have seen me in my chair here, just oozing everywhere. It was disgusting. And then
they have that mental image. Okay.
No, they're fine. No, it's fine. They're fine. Now it's out there, and now they can enjoy that. And the other one was Wolverine, both Insomniac games. And no idea when Wolverine's coming out. Don't care, but I know that it's coming.
2024. It's 2024, 25.
It's way away, and I don't care. I'm getting Spider-Man 2 with Venom in it. Let's go. Mm-hmm. But that got us thinking and pondering. And you and I were talking a little bit before the show about superhero games and the conversation around Xbox. And I think a lot of people are talking about this too, where it's like, okay, we see what Insomniac is doing and PlayStation is doing. They have Spider-Man all wrapped up. Now they have another massive Marvel property in Wolverine. And with Insomniac, I think there's just so much trust, as there should be, with them being able to pull off a amazing experience with Wolverine. So then we all start looking over here on the Xbox side. And you got us thinking, what do we want to see from a superhero game on the Xbox platform? Go.
So here's what I look at. It's almost like Sony has a deal with Disney, not just Marvel, because Disney is Marvel now. Like, let's that Mickey Mouse, he owns a lot and he makes a lot of decisions. So the fact that they have KOTOR as well, that's a PlayStation. They said time, so it's obviously only going to be there for a year. Spider-Man, we understand Sony owns the property. It makes sense. My guess is when they did that redo of the contract, that's when they got Wolverine. When they did that contract so that Marvel could have more Spider-Man in their movies, Sony was like, we want more video games. And rightfully so, Marvel was like, okay, no problem, because you guys made Spider-Man, which was a banger. So I have a funny feeling that's how they got the Wolverine franchise. There was a little bit of a side hustle there. So maybe, just maybe, Xbox getting and dipping their toe into that whole Marvel thing might be a little difficult. Mind you, you get Disney Plus for free on Xbox when you sign up for Game Pass Ultimate.
Disney's everywhere. Disney owns everybody.
So With that all being said, do they need a superhero genre? No, because they still will get Gotham Knights. They still have Avengers for those 5 people that are playing it.
Stop
They
it.
still have
Guardians.
They have some franchises that are multi-platform. Would it be awesome if they could get their own exclusive? Yes, but then you would have to look at which studio is going to get that. You already know Bethesda's working on an Indiana Jones game.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So could Bethesda, which studio do you see at Microsoft making a first party only Microsoft superhero game? I'm not saying what type of superhero. We threw around names before.
Yeah.
You could have Thor, there's Captain America. Or do you think, Matt, it would just make way more sense to just buy WB?
I think that would be the safest bet. But to back up for a second, before we get into the WB thing, I want to talk about the point you're hitting on with Disney and kind of the contract negotiation piece, which we know nothing about. But to speculate, yes. I wonder on the Disney side, on the Marvel Disney side, they have talked about in the past couple of years about how they want to expand, as they should, all of their video game properties. Like they leverage these superheroes and these properties they now own and get them out there in video games. It only makes sense. So we get games like Spider-Man, we get a Wolverine, we get Guardians, Marvel's Avengers, blah, blah, blah. And what's really good on the Marvel Disney side is that they are working with multiple studios. This isn't an EA scenario with Battlefield or Battlefront, I should say, with Star Wars, where it tanked because of all of the microtransactions built in there. And it made them look real bad. It made Disney look really, really bad. And that's not what they want. So what I like about the Marvel deal and what Disney's doing like with Marvel Studios is they shop out. And we get to see a lot of different actual developers work on different Marvel properties. So I like that it's not all tied up with Sony. But I do agree with you that there's probably something there with like, hey, we're renegotiating Spider-Man in the upcoming films. On the Sony side of things, we also want to be able to have Miles Morales for another game. We want to have Spider-Man 2. And we're shopping out and we want to be able to pitch Wolverine. And I do believe, I mean, honestly, I do believe that a pitch for a Wolverine game takes time to present that to Disney and to Marvel. And maybe Marvel was shopping around going, we want a Wolverine game. Who can do one? Maybe they went through Insomniac and were like, we saw what you did with Spider-Man. This makes sense. Presented what they had for their ideas. And maybe they just loved it. And maybe teams over at Xbox presented the same thing. We don't know. But I just wonder what else they could do. And I do wonder what studios for under Marvel, like on the Xbox side, would it make sense? Now, to answer your question, though, about WB, is it just make more sense to just grab WB? Right now, from Xbox perspective, I think 1,000%. And we did do a little bit of predictions when we did our Tokyo game showcase about what they need to do. And I think Sega is one of the big ones that they should go after. But on superhero front, I think you do. I think you're missing that one component. You're missing that big, big character, because look what it's done with Sony and PlayStation. Spider-Man is PlayStation on the gaming front. And that's where it's going to be associated with forever. That's killer. And I feel like Xbox right now, especially with all the rumblings for the last year of WB possibly being up for sale, I think now more than ever, you make a play and you say, we need Batman. And we need a superhero. Maybe we will have third-party Marvel games on our platform. And I think Xbox would stick with that a lot of the time. I think because you get games like Guardians of the Galaxy coming out multi-platform. But they need that one big juggernaut superhero. And I think Batman just makes sense. What about you? You think WB works?
We've talked about this before off air. The 2 biggest comic book characters in the world are Spider-Man and Batman.
Yeah.
Spider-Man is already with Sony. Batman is technically, from all we understand, all we can do is read the tea leaves. Batman is up for grabs. We know that there is a fantastic Gotham Knights game coming out, but it's just got a dead Batman in it. There is no Batman in that game. There's many different stories you can do with Batman. Well, it's a dead Batman. That's what it is. But I look at the game studios that Xbox already has. So say instead of doing acquisitions to get these in, I look at what Double Fine just did with Psychonauts 2, and I say, why can't they make a Thor game?
Hmm.
Why can't they make give me a fun character that's in that Marvel world? Because you know a little bit better. Like, geez, you could almost. Yeah, I'm looking at the colors. I'm looking at
Yeah.
the way they did things. There's no flying mechanics in Psychonauts, but I don't see that as being. I think we all know how we want Thor to fly. There's a game called Anthem. Just copy it and make that Thor, make that Iron Man, whatever you want to do. It's the only good thing about that game.
Yeah.
But you could do a cartoon looking Thor with the vision and the art style of a Double Fine game, and I think it would be fantastic. I just don't. It sounds terrible when I look at 343 is always going to be making the same game we all know. So I look at their. Oh, it'd be tough, man. Could Rare make a game? Maybe.
But it's not going to be. But are you trying to get a AAA level experience of a Marvel property, or are you trying to get something of the middle of the road? I think you need to go big.
I think you have to. I think you have to get AAA. I just.
But I don't. That's why I don't see any other studios.
Made Ori? I know this sounds terrible. I'm asking Ori and the Blind. I'll pull it up here. I got everything in front of me. Obsidian made Double Fine is.
As you're doing that, I think Bethesda is only one of the biggest studios that could pull off a AAA experience.
Correct.
Superhero. But I don't think that they're going to go down that path. They have way too much on their plate, and I think they have stuff roadmap for 5-10 years.
But Bethesda is maybe the perfect one. Hey, Bethesda, we got Doom, we got all this. You could do a lot with Doom Eternal. It's called Doom Eternal, just like Halo Infinite.
Mm-hmm.
You could just adding to that and say, hey, can you give me a Hawkeye game?
True. Yeah.
First person. Now, to me, that sounds amazing. A Hawkeye first person game. Or a third person, almost like a a la Ghost of Tsushima, but give me a Hawkeye stealth game with detective parts, and you could do a lot. Like I know in the comic, a lot of times they make the character deaf. I think you could even go onto that era of the Hawkeye comics and make him deaf and do all these things where you have to use your senses. And I think that they could do a fantastic job over at Bethesda and make that game. Now, that's just my opinion.
One concern I have about where this can all lead us down the road in 5-10 years is that we get so many superheroes associated with consoles or platforms, and like Spider-Man with Sony, that's going to live over there. We're never going to see that on the Xbox platform, which hurts because if you do a superhero movie, or excuse me, a superhero game that has a lot of characters in it, like an MCU one, that would make sense for Spider-Man to be there, and it's multi-platform or it's on Xbox, you're not going to get Spider-Man unless there's a deal cut, and I don't see that happening. But I think of like Wolverine. You got Insomniac pulling off probably an amazing Wolverine game down the road. That makes me super excited, but also bummed out because that means I'm probably never going to be able to see Wolverine and the X-Men mashed together for quite some time on the Xbox side. Unless it's like a Marvel Legends game. Like, you know what I mean? But they do have that new one that's coming out with who's the...
Sony doesn't own Wolverine.
They don't, but you know what I mean? Is that they get that AAA proprietary like character.
But Ubisoft is doing a Star Wars game, and now Sony's doing a Star Wars game. That doesn't mean that Xbox can't do an X-Men game.
No, it's true. They can do an X-Men game. I just worry
a Wolverine game.
I know. And I just worry though that they get all bunched up under one brand on a PlayStation or an Xbox side. That's my worry.
I also worry that my theory that Hulk is in the Wolverine game and Hulk is now a Sony property as well. That scares me too.
Did you see how it can go? I know.
At the very end of this game, you see Hulk's foot, and that's how they end the game. And it's like, he's now a Sony property.
But that is what worries me though down the road is as Sony first party studios like Insomniac Games, who again, my favorite games are the new Ratchet and Clank, Spider-Man, Miles, and the Wolverine and the next Spider-Man, like whatever they're touching with the Marvel MCU, I'm in, and I think it's going to be amazing. That makes things good for Disney, good for Marvel Studios. They're all happy. It works for Sony. Give Sony more. Give them more and more and more. As these games continue to sell billions of dollars, they will keep giving Sony more, and Insomniac and studios like that, more and more exclusivity. And I worry that you get like a Hulk tease in the Wolverine game, and Marvel is like, and Disney's like, well, this is a phenomenal game. It's selling crazy. Let's give them another one. Oh yeah, you can have exclusivity to Hulk. And then it starts going from there where you're like, more and more characters become exclusive to Sony, to PlayStation, and we don't get it. And that's what I really worry about, is down the road we can't get that. I don't think Marvel and Disney would do that necessarily, but it's gonna they're gonna follow the dollar. If it makes sense to have a 5-year contract with Sony exclusively for Wolverine, they're gonna do it. If the game is like the highest selling games ever, like Spider-Man was, and it's a console seller, everyone wins. So why wouldn't you do it? That's why I also feel like Xbox needs to do a better job and grab something like Batman. Because like you said, Batman, Spider-Man, the biggest ones out there. And Batman, I feel, is like, it's just kind of waiting there.
Oh, I don't, as a Batman fan. Batman's over my shoulders there. Well, sorry. Yeah, no, he's over my shoulders.
He's there.
Yeah. I would 100% be extremely excited if Batman came to Xbox and it was exclusive. I understand people hate exclusivities. I honestly think it's good for gaming. I own both consoles. I enjoy both consoles. It is what it is. You're never going to get away from it. Exclusivities, they happen everywhere in every industry. So complaining about it is just a waste of your breath. It is what it is. Everybody's going to follow the dollar, and I don't blame companies for doing so.
I don't either. So I think
I'd be happy with a Batman game. Let's boil it down to, I think we both agree. Let's just give us a WB game. Just
fair enough.
WB, buy Rocksteady, buy whoever. Give me Batman. Talk to DC. Hey, let's make this work. And hey, DC, your movies. The Batman looks good, but so maybe, just maybe, go to Xbox and be like, hey, our video games were better before Marvel did their video games. Let's get back to there.
I'm with you 100% because I look at the DC side of things, and okay, I think of the Nemesis system from the what game is that?
It's Lord of the Rings.
Lord of the Rings, the Shadow Mordor games. Yeah. The Nemesis system is amazing, and I want that in a Batman game, or put that in a DC game, because as we're talking, I'm like, Nemesis system with like Wonder Woman would work really well. Shadow Mordor, sub him out and put in Wonder Woman. You've got some flying mechanic with her. They got all of the jumping and jumping off cliffs. She's got the sword. She's got the lasso and a shield. It works so well, and I'm with you that I think the DC universe can work exceptionally well with Xbox, with Rocksteady, with any of these other developers they have, if Xbox can scoop them up. Because there's so much storytelling there that hasn't been uncovered. You can get away with a amazing Green Lantern story. You can get a great Justice League story if you want to do it. But you make a good point that studios like Rocksteady with Batman, and maybe this is all planned too, but they need to be turning around going, okay, we're getting walloped by Marvel from the movie side of things and from the gaming side. And we were here first on the gaming side. Like, we crushed it with Batman.
They were there first on the movie side. Batman 89.
True. Batman
89.
Yeah.
Let's be real here.
But they're falling behind, and they're falling behind in the conversation and the narrative. And that sucks because we're just fans ultimately that want it all to do well. I want Marvel and DC to do well because I get great games and great movies and great stories. But I want to see them really push hard on the DC side and show me something new. I think Gotham Knights is going to be great. I think it's going to be fun. They've got extra time now that it's been delayed and it's coming out next year. And I want to see what else they can do and where they could branch off. And a game like that also with Gotham Knights allows, with multiple characters put in there, and depending how it plays out, having multiple characters in there, it can allow you to utilize that gameplay mechanic and that system to storytell a game like a Justice League game, where you have multiple characters, and if they can nail it with Gotham Knights almost as a testing ground, you could then maybe transition down the road and give us like a Justice League game. But we'll see. I don't know. But I want DC in my Xbox. Ladies and gentlemen, let us know what you think in the comments below. What superheroes do you want to see on the Xbox platform? Do you think Xbox and Microsoft will actually grab an exclusive like WB? And what do you want to see down the road? Thanks so much for watching, everybody. Do us a favor if you can. Subscribe to the channel. Hit the notification bell. All that fun stuff. You get all the updates, notifications on what we're doing for Assemble XP, your all Xbox podcast. I'm Matt. That's Court over there in the other window. Thanks so much for watching, everybody. And as always, thank you all for assembling with us. See ya!